If you're just jumping on, I'm Kristen, and just say hello. This is an interactive training, so look for your chat on your Zoom, and we are going to talk about blood sugar tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and get us going. Kind of first things first is let's definitely try to focus if you can. Hi, Stephanie. Yay, glad to see you here or see you on chat. So, I know that for me, I have my door closed and with a note that the kids hopefully won't come in. So, but I know that we don't get very much time to ourselves, right? So, if you can, just take this time and close your door, all of that, and just hopefully you can learn some things and then really just relax. This is supposed to be a relaxed time where you feel like you can learn some things, but feel encouraged too. I hope I share some things that are helpful to you tonight. So, all right. So, staying till the end, I have a bonus for you guys. It's a recipe book. So, those who are here live, stay to the end, and I have a holiday recipe book for you. And it's got 22 fun recipes that are yummy. They're appetizers, but also several little treats and dessert kinds of things you can bring to parties, or of course, just make for yourself at home with holiday themes. So just really good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get going. And let me know if you have questions along the way. Okay, guide to managing your blood sugar. This is the first thing I wanted to do. I have a guide for you that you can download now, and I'm putting this in the chat. And you will see a link right now. And if you would just click that link, it's going to open up a PDF, and it's actually a guide that gives you the notes from this training tonight. You can either open it now and just kind of save it on your computer, whatever. I also would be happy to email this to you if you have any trouble opening it right now. I'm happy to email it to you. Just email me and let me know you need it, and I'll send it out tomorrow. But this is just a guide for you so that you don't have to try to remember everything I talk about tonight. You'll just be able to like kind of engage with the training and then just have something to refer to later. So hopefully it's good and going to help you just with some tips that you can just refer to and remember the things that we cover tonight. All right. And I'm going to, with that, go ahead and turn off my camera so that you can get the full experience. And then I will pop back on at the end, and then when we do some Q&A. All right. Can you relate to these things? Are you waking up too many mornings, feeling regret the second your feet hit the floor? Are you trying to be okay wearing elastic waistbands or sweatpants this holiday season? Are you skipping breakfast and eating light all day so that you can make up for the treats you know you will eat tonight, even if the party's just you by yourself in front of Netflix? Are you unsure of how to get free from your sugar cravings, your yo-yo eating, and your weight fluctuations? Are you overindulging now while promising yourself you will start your diet after the holidays? Now, first, before we say anything, I have done all of those things, so I can completely relate. If you're nodding your head in agreement, I'm not a stalker. I've done these things myself, and just know that you're not alone. A lot of times we do the same things every holiday season because they're familiar. And when we don't have new tactics to rely on, we just tend to do what's automatic. But I'm here to tell you that this could be a different holiday season for you and one that you can enjoy even more. Let's talk about, now that I've mentioned some of the things we don't want, what do we want? And here's a few desires just to get you thinking. I've listed here some things that that are what we desire, but what I'm going to go through in the training is some of the simplest ways to get these things. You'll be able to wear the same jeans you're wearing today on January 1st. You'll wake up every day proud of yourself for yesterday's decisions and confident about the ones you'll make today. You'll know what to do rather than relying on deprivation and willpower. You'll be able to enjoy treats rather than overeat them out of hunger or stress or emotion or even boredom. You'll be able to be present with your family and friends, enjoying all the memories rather than just trying to push aside the food guilt. Tell me in the comments what your desire is, if any of these resonate with you, or if you just have a desire for this holiday season? Let me know in the chat. I know that for me, I want to be present. That is something I've been focusing on. And I even have a little note on my refrigerator to be present with my family. So I want to enjoy my memories rather than letting food kind of dictate how I feel this season. Yeah, Sandy, you agree, huh? To be present. I love that. Present with your family. Yeah, if anyone else wants to share, feel free. Glad you guys are here. All right. I'm going to move on. Before we go any further, I want to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. I'm Kristen. I'm a mindset and master certified health coach. I help women break free from fad diets, restrictive meal plans, and cravings so they can experience permanent weight loss and feel confident in their own skin. I teach women how to get weight freedom by working smarter, not harder. I also healed myself after going through 25 years of weight fluctuations, a poor relationship with food, and health issues. And it looks like a few of you are also sharing, I want to stop feeling guilty. That's Stephanie. Also be present, plan before eating out or holiday parties. Yeah, I love that. The planning before, making decisions before. That's so good. Thank you for sharing that. This is me 3 Christmases ago. And just to give you a couple minutes of my backstory, I had struggled with my weight for years. This was on kind of the upside of one of my weight gain or weight loss cycles. Several stressful life events had coincided here for a few years, really, including some chronic pain that I had been dealing with for 6 years before this. I had a stressful job, I had a very busy family schedule, and it was around this time that I just had to come face to face with my years of unhealthy patterns that had me toggling between restrictive eating and then splurging. My typical pattern was that I would be on some kind of eating plan or a diet, but then something would get me off track. And that could be like a stress situation, a party, a dinner out, or just the need to relax with food. And it was just like all of a sudden I'd overindulge and I felt like I'd go right back to my old eating habits. And that would last either a few days, a few weeks, or a few months, and just kind of struggling to get myself back on my plan, so to speak. Holidays were usually the hardest time of year for me. And truthfully, I would just kind of start on Halloween, digging into my kids' stash, and then I would just kind of eat till New Year's. And the way that I sort of got through that in my brain was like, oh, I'm just going to start my diet, in January. And I would even be kind of researching my next diet all of December. Like, am I going to do keto? And, I'm saving recipes in Pinterest and all that, or, figuring out what the next book is that I'm going to read for eating plans. And so I guess the research of a diet always made me feel better. So it was kind of like I would just start something new in January or plan to. But when I kind of got to this point in my life in my 40s, all of those empty promises had taken their toll. Like I knew that I wouldn't really do a diet. So here I am, like kind of overeating, overindulging in the holidays and thinking, oh, I'm just going to start in January. But I kind of knew in my heart I wouldn't. And I wouldn't really last because it just had taken its toll. I'd been around the block with dieting over and over and over for decades. I wouldn't be able to motivate myself to diet. So I would try to just kind of eat healthier. But the hard part for me was that the yo-yo eating, kind of like off again, on again eating, overeating, and starting over like every Monday, that just those kinds of patterns were very ingrained in me. I wondered why others didn't seem to struggle like I did. I felt very alone. I felt like this was something that I just couldn't figure out. So tell me what you guys think. Do you feel that way? Does anyone feel that way? And if you're struggling with the same thing or maybe something similar, just shoot a comment. I'm sure I'm not the only one that struggled to figure these things out. So let me know your thoughts. All right. So I did find a simpler way. Something shifted for me about 3 years ago. I actually didn't even try to eat better after the holidays that year. January and February both passed me by. That was, yeah. So that after I shared about the 3 Christmases ago, this was like that January and February. I kind of went past that. In March, I was feeling mentally exhausted and overweight, and something in me decided that I would just no longer live like this. All I can say is I was just done. I was done with diets, but I was also done with my own inconsistencies. I started to just get to a point where I wanted to understand, like, what were these obstacles that had prevented me from the freedom around food that I wanted? And so I kind of had this little glimmer of hope for change that just wouldn't go away. I decided I was going to figure out how to lose weight forever, but in a way that didn't feel like dieting. That was intriguing to me, and I was kind of like on a mission to figure this out. It didn't really matter to me how long it took. I was just kind of on, like, ready for a journey, ready to figure it out. For me, this was unthinkable, but I just started admitting that I had a problem with food. It was really hard to admit that. It was hard to own that. And I realized that dieting had been the solution that I kept seeking to solve my problem. But the problem was deeper, and I wanted to understand it. So rather than punishing myself with unrealistic eating promises that I just knew I wouldn't keep, and instead of the diets that I knew didn't work, I just got curious. And curious is kind of one of my favorite words for a journey like this. So that's when I started the journey that got me to where I am today, here with you, sharing some of these strategies. These are also the strategies I use with my clients, so they can kind of skip over all of the trial and error. And I just want people to have peace with food and weight freedom. That's really what I'm about. So, and just going back to your comments, a few of you have shared your struggle, and that one of you said, I always kind of knew I would gain it back when I started eating again. Yeah, it's like that feeling like, okay, I might be losing weight, but we're used to gaining it back, right? I can totally relate to that. One of you said, you can relate to making yourself feel better by researching the diets. Yeah, like shopping, learning, and it feels like we're doing something, right? If we're accumulating knowledge. So thank you for sharing that. Um, and then Lisa, you said my diets only seem to last temporarily, about 1 to 3 months. Then I get bored and the desire to go back to my old habits, not meaning to, just habitual eating. Yeah, and habits is such a great point because habits is just something that it's like a routine that we're just used to. So it's not that something's wrong with us. We don't have enough willpower, all those things. It's, habits. It's actually good news that, that's something we can work on, but it doesn't work through some of the restriction and dieting that we've tried. Thanks for sharing that. During my journey, I ended up losing 30 pounds, and I've kept it off for over 2 years. It took me about 6 months. I learned during that time that what I had done all these years was completely wrong. So what I discovered through all of that trial and error of those years was that I didn't have weak willpower, or, it wasn't that I wasn't strong enough to say no to the junk, or that I needed to do an hour of cardio daily. That was my story too. I discovered that none of those things were normal or helpful. I figured out that I, in fact, had an ongoing imbalance of blood sugar, which impacted my yo-yo eating. I also had a wrecked metabolism and a poor relationship with food. I won't be able to cover all of those things in this workshop, but I will teach you about how to manage your blood sugar, which I believe was the most important change I made, which helped me change my metabolism and relationship with food anyway. This is one of the game changers my clients have experienced in their work with me too. Once I started to address when and how I was eating so that I could stabilize my blood sugar, I felt better, and I was able to change the way that I was thinking. This combination of those two things was really powerful, and I want to share how I did it with you so that you can skip over the trial and error too. Because there's a simpler way to enjoy the holidays without anxiety, depriving yourself, eating only salads, and relying on willpower. So type yes in the comments if you want a simpler way of doing this. Yeah, and thanks for sharing, Stephanie. You got why bother? If I lose weight, it's going to come back. Yeah, can relate. Cool. Lots of you want a simpler way. Let's move along here then. Okay, why should you care about your blood sugar? Let's start with that. We know that there's two areas that really impact us with blood sugar, concerning blood sugar. Number one, it impacts your health. And that's kind of a whole different topic when we're kind of talking through pre-diabetics, type 2 diabetes, and insulin resistance. Those are kind of terms that relate to the health side, obviously, which are very difficult. And as we get older, we are more susceptible to those things, especially if we've had a lot of years of struggle with sugar and blood sugar imbalances. But our training really tonight is going to focus more on the weight side of it. I will just say really quickly, related to the health, where insulin resistance happens is when we have an ongoing high blood sugar. High blood sugar in our system creates more insulin, and over time, that we can develop insulin resistance, where it becomes less effective at carrying the sugar, which we also call glucose, away for our body to use. But those blood sugar levels continue to increase, and we have too much of it in our system when we have insulin resistance. So that turns into type 2 diabetes. So that can have a lot of side effects for our health. So definitely for our health, there's a very good reason that we want to look at our blood sugar and try to keep it balanced even now, because it can be one of the ways to reduce pre-diabetes and all of those risks is by reducing your blood sugar spikes. So I'm going to teach you that tonight. But how it impacts our overeating and weight is really what we're covering in this workshop. So here's some symptoms, and you might relate to some of these, or maybe you haven't had any of these that you know of. But these are some pretty common symptoms with blood sugar imbalances. So weight gain, which some people don't really realize, and we're going to talk more about that, but cravings can be caused by it, extreme hunger, fatigue, kind of like that brain fog feeling. Sometimes you might feel really lightheaded or like physically weak. Usually when that happens, it leads to that need for sugar. Like that's the only thing that's going to bring your blood sugar back up, so to speak. So these are kind of some of the things that we can encounter. This slide is really just to kind of walk you through a pretty simple description so you can kind of see how the minute we start eating, how that translates into excess blood sugar being stored as body fat. So when we eat food, depending on what we eat at the top, that arrow next is, we get a rise in blood sugar. The rise in blood sugar really depends on what we eat, right? Like how much sugar we just had, or whether we had protein or not. All of what we kind of how we nourish ourselves and what we eat derives the amount of blood sugar. Then insulin is the hormone that comes in, and it is the one that transports our blood sugar into our cells. So we need that in our muscles and our cells for fuel. And so we need energy, right, from our carbs. So there is a reason to eat them. The hard part is when we have too high of a blood sugar spike from really high foods and sugar, highly processed foods, then we can't store all of that blood sugar, right? So then insulin stores the excess of that as body fat. So that's kind of a very simplistic way to kind of show why this results in weight gain, depending on how much of a blood sugar spike we have. All right, we'll go into now some reasons why it might be out of whack. And some of these are kind of things you wouldn't even probably realize. I think the most surprising one is deprivation. And it's something that I work with women quite a bit, because deprivation, we might think we're overeaters sometimes, like, okay, I'm always overeating, and I know that for me, one of my biggest struggles was overeating at dinner. Like, it was just kind of this thing where I really wanted a big dinner. I wanted to feel really full, and I still struggle with that. I have to like kind of work through that sometimes still. And what I've really discovered is it's a lot of times not eating enough. And I think when we feel like we have extra weight and things, we're thinking, well, I need to eat less. But the hard part is that if we're not eating enough and nourishing our body during the day, then our body's kind of getting signals like, you're not feeding me. You know, our body and our brain are really smart, and we can be depriving when we don't realize it. And what can happen then is that, you know, your brain gets used to gearing up for like a potential deprivation. Like, say that you don't really eat breakfast and you kind of do that, but then you overeat at dinner because you're hungrier later in the day. You're partly eating a lot at dinner because your brain and body are sort of like used to, oh, she's not going to feed me tomorrow. So deprivation has a lot of like real subtle effects, you know, for us mentally, emotionally. And, you know, we can sometimes be overeating as a response because there's a like a fear of upcoming deprivation. Not that we're exactly feeling the fear, but like I said, our body and our brain are pretty smart to see what our patterns are. Another impact of deprivation is that it forces you to use willpower instead of choosing your food. And, you know, willpower, the struggle with willpower is that it really works, it's working yourself up to follow rules. And it's kind of out of a perfection mentality or like a fear of failure mentality. And willpower doesn't work because it doesn't create the space that you need to engage your brain and choose. Like we need to be able to trust ourselves with food. We need to be able to choose it. And sometimes, you know, we're just so automatic with you know, trying to use willpower to fix certain things that that willpower just won't last. So, like if you've noticed that, you know, you're trying to rely on willpower, but someone brings in donuts to the office, and before you know it, you're eating it. Um, because you're relying on willpower. Whereas when you rely on choices and you learn the techniques to mindfully think through, do I want that donut or not? Am I hungry? You know, like you're creating a little bit of space to make a choice. Um, so that the alternative to willpower is choice. So we want to learn how to choose. It's empowering. And then we get to say yes sometimes, we get to say no other times. We find ourselves stopping when we're full. And that's what results in the permanent weight loss and helps you keep off weight, you know, when you lose it. So it can help you get out of that all or nothing cycle. And let me know if you guys have any thoughts or questions as I'm going through this. Another reason that blood sugar can be out of whack is larger quantities of high sugar foods and high carb foods. The holidays just, you know, provide a lot of opportunities for more high sugar foods at home or at work and at get-togethers. And, you know, I know some of my other clients are dealing with, you know, Halloween. That was kind of the start of it, right? Like I mentioned earlier. We're, you know, there's times coming up where we're just having more of these things around us. And processed foods and foods high in sugar don't create fullness unless they're eaten in large amounts. And that's because these foods don't contain much protein or fiber. So this makes them really easy to overeat. And because we're just surrounded with them more and they don't fill us up, we're, you know, we can tend to overeat them. And because eating them causes your blood sugar to spike, then you have cravings for more of them. Because then you have, you know, after you have a spike, you have a crash. And then what you need when you crash is more sugar. So it kind of creates this cycle that's difficult to get out of or feels like it is. All of that can also create food guilt because, you know, you think you're out of control, but it's really your blood sugar that's out of control. And there's a lot of things you can do to fix it, which we'll talk about. But the other last thing that can kind of impact blood sugar that we don't really think about that often is eating carbs without protein or fats. Like I mentioned earlier, we have so many foods around us that are high in sugar, high in carbs, especially this time of year during the holidays. So we're kind of, you know, eating those more often, having more of a blood sugar spike. And, you know, sorry, but I lost my train of thought here. What happens is with this is that because of the sugar by itself, it's moving faster. The glucose, the sugar is moving quicker into our bloodstream. And so that's why the spike is higher with just these cookies and, you know, cakes and things like that by themselves. Now you'll learn a little bit more as we go that there are things you can eat with a dessert that will slow down the blood sugar spike. So for instance, protein, um, if you can start thinking through, how could I maybe add some protein or even like some fat with my carb right now? Like, so there's people that do different things with that. Like they eat dessert right after they've had their dinner meal that had, protein with it, and the blood sugar spike is less than if you ate those cookies 2 hours later. So yeah, eating carbs is just kind of creating more cravings for the carbs, more of the insulin and then more of the energy drop, which is difficult too, because when we eat a lot of things high in sugar, then we have a pretty severe drop, which can cause some of that fatigue and things like that. And then we feel like we need more carbs, and then it can kind of feel discouraging. One of the things that I'm just going to talk a little bit about, some of the weight fluctuations that we can find ourselves in. And, one of the things that I've found that's important to figure out is the root cause. And when it comes to the strategies or the diets that have been unsuccessful for us, there's a really big reason why they have left us losing and gaining back weight. It's because all of those diets we've tried have not fixed our mindset and often have not fixed our blood sugar. And then in addition, they've wreaked havoc on our metabolism because, like I mentioned about depriving, that's what diets do. And that impacts our metabolism the more that we don't eat and then we overeat. So our mind kind of struggles because we're living in like an extreme mindset. We're flipping back and forth between willpower, like I'm going to try so hard with food, and then, oh, now I'm giving up with food, I'm just going to eat it. So we're kind of, that happens in our mind. And then in our body, it's the blood sugar. When it's out of whack, we're kind of going back and forth between being really hungry and miserable, then to being stuffed and on a sugar high. And this pattern is what creates a lack of balance. Like I mentioned in the mindset, so it's kind of psychologically and then also physically. And that just perpetuates this all or nothing way of living. This results in blood sugar and hunger imbalances. And that physical part of the blood sugar is what's, difficult for us to not eat, right? It's, because we have a physical craving going on. So that's also impacting our relationship with food. And like I mentioned, impacting our metabolism. I want to talk just for a minute about diets. My story about getting free from my weight struggles had me digging into what I now call the dieting mentality. This is like a lens that I was seeing the world through for years. And my dieting mentality caused me to live in extremes, kind of an all or nothing way of eating. It had me starting over every Monday, terrified of the scale, or like just filled with anxiety. Should I eat this? Should I not? All the time, like kind of thinking about food all the time. And as I mentioned earlier, the holidays can make this struggle even harder. So if you think of the dieting mentality, it's kind of like a lens you see the world through, as if you're wearing a certain pair of glasses. And so you're seeing the world through these glasses of false beliefs and behaviors that diet culture have ingrained in you related to food and deprivation. So we're told, that things operate a certain way if we want to lose weight. And so I want to just kind of let you keep the visual, have you keep the visual of glasses going on as I go through the rest of the training. You've got your dieting mentality lens, or you can see yourself and your food and your decisions through a blood sugar lens. Now that you know a little bit more about blood sugar, you can choose to see food and weight through your blood sugar lens. So it's like putting on a new pair of glasses. And this is really empowering because it helps you see things very differently. It takes the pressure off of following all the rules of, kind of dieting, deprivation that have encouraged you to yo-yo eat. So the blood sugar lens, we're going to talk through what to eat here in a minute, but here are some things that you can kind of keep in mind. Eating protein, fat, and carbs together. So instead of, carbs by themselves, especially things that are simple carbs like cookies, cake, white pasta, white rice, all that stuff, mix that with protein, with chicken, with, a meat of some sort, have some fat in there, and beans, things like that, that also have protein in them, right? So if you kind of mix those three things together, those are called macronutrients, and they keep your blood sugar more stable. If you eat small meals throughout the day, that's one way you can help keep your blood sugar more stable, and also send the message, like I mentioned, to your brain and body, hey, I'm feeding you, I'm not depriving you. Um, you can eat the same all week long, right? Because I'm managing my blood sugar. I'm not on a diet and off of it on the weekend. I'm eating this way. It's my way of life. And I can still enjoy treats and the foods I like when I eat balanced and eat all of these things together. You can tell yourself this food will be here tomorrow, right? I can choose to eat some of this today and tomorrow. I don't have to overeat it today. I get to choose how much I'm going to have of it. That helps, this is just helping you create space. Like I'm going to nourish myself, and I'm going to have fun foods in my life too. And that's what the holidays should be about, right? So, what to eat? This is a lot of the question that I get. And this will be in your handout that I sent you so that you can refer later. Okay. But one of the biggest things that you can do, probably the biggest thing, is eat enough protein. When you eat protein, and the good sources of protein are all kinds of things, beef, chicken, fish, eggs, dairy, protein powder. Protein powder is a really helpful way as well. Protein promotes satiety, so it helps you to feel full and satisfied pretty quickly, and it helps reduce your appetite so you can go a lot longer without being so hungry. And kind of a nice little side bonus is that our bodies use more calories to digest protein than any other food, so we actually increase our metabolism from eating it. So it's kind of a nice little benefit. Here's some ideas for you: is eating protein with your carbohydrates that I mentioned earlier, so you're satisfied longer, and then you can experience slower digestion. That's what happens when you have protein, is your food digests slower, so there's a slower rise in the blood sugar. If you can make sure that you eat enough for your own body. And just as a kind of general rule of thumb, adults need at least half a gram of protein per pound of body weight. So what you simply do is take your body weight, multiply it by 0.5, and that will tell you how many grams of protein that your body needs a day. Now, this is not about perfection. And often we find that protein's a little bit harder to get more of in our diet. That's very common. So it's just something to be aware of. And the more that you can try to bring it into your food, or your meals and snacks even, it will help you. And here's a few creative ways. You can add protein powder to like waffle and pancake mixes. So if you can bake with it. There's muffin recipes that you can add some protein powder and just increase it. You can put it in oatmeal, you can put it in smoothies. And so you can have a really filling smoothie if you added protein powder, maybe some spinach or something, some type of veggie you like, and that's giving you the fiber. And then say you added some fat, like we've talked about, you could put peanut butter or almond butter or something in there. And that smoothie is not like a wimpy smoothie. It will keep you full for a long time. So another idea is, like, if you like eggs, you can add 1 to 2 egg whites to your morning eggs. So then you're not eating all egg whites. You still have the flavor of the yolk, but you can just add a couple egg whites and just totally up your protein right there. When you eat carbs, you can choose the fiber-rich ones that also have protein. So carbs that are whole grains, like, and that are carbs that are not simple carbs. They're called complex carbs when they have fiber. And so those are things like beans and oats and whole grain breads, pastas, brown rice, that type of thing. And then Sandy made a comment. I add the protein powder to my smoothie with sun butter. Yes, that's my favorite smoothie, Sandy. Yeah, I totally love that too. And it's very satisfying and tastes really good. Um, so that's protein. Okay. The next one is eating the right carbs. So the right carbs, like I just kind of touched on, but they're complex carbs. So good sources of that are fresh fruits and vegetables, beans, brown rice, whole grain breads. See, carbs are not evil. We actually need them for energy. And these kind of carbs actually help stabilize your blood sugar. They give you energy, they satisfy you. So no need to diet and cut out carbs. You just get smart about how you use your carbs, and you eat them with protein and fat. They steady your blood sugar. They also slow digestion when they are complex carbs like this. They add variety because we get bored with meals when we can't bring carbs in, to some extent here, right? They help you feel full. Um, so some tips on that are to limit your simple carbs that raise your blood sugar more, things like white bread, white pasta, white rice, candy and pastry type foods. Just try to maybe slowly, like if you eat white bread, maybe you could try whole grain bread. You can take one little thing at a time to sort of transition yourself. Like I know for me and my family, we used to, eat a lot of white rice, and I just slowly started moving us toward kind of like now I started with like a quarter brown rice with 3/4 white, and then I moved to like half and half. And now I'm kind of at, like 75% brown and 25% white. You can do things like that. This is not about like, oh, you can only eat brown, but the more that you bring in these whole grains and do it in a way that's kind to your family and helpful to you, it can really make a difference. So enjoy a moderate amount of complex carbs to add that variety. And just another example is like adding a little brown rice to your favorite chicken thighs, season those and put in a veggie that you like, and you're creating like a meal with texture, but a meal that also is blood sugar balancing. Try to get most of your carbohydrates from a nutrient rich, things like fruits and vegetables, which have that fiber in them too. Fiber is like really huge for keeping your hunger regulated. And then you can increase healthy fats and, like good fats like olive oil and nuts, nut butters and avocados and different seeds. And you can use that, in all kinds of things, like we even talked about with smoothies or salads or snacks, trail mixes, and things like that. Another tip is like add guacamole to sandwiches instead of mayonnaise. Use olive oil based dressings instead of a low fat dressing, because then you're getting that healthy oil there. And add nut butters or seed butters to things, like your smoothies. So, and like I said, get plenty of fibers. Fiber is underrated, and it's so good at like keeping you full and slowing down that digestion and the blood sugar spikes. So then just a few tips to help you with your blood sugar, and especially during the holidays. These are kind of some helpful things. So you can start your day with a breakfast high in protein and healthy fats. And that's a really good way to just kind of like get the day going without a blood sugar spike right away, because then you're kind of all day high and low blood sugar, right? So if you can, focus on like, even if you have carbs in the morning, that's totally fine. Just think about your protein. Think about how you can get some protein and healthy fat in there as well. Eating small meals throughout the day can be really helpful in kind of lowering that release of the blood sugar and insulin all day. And then it also helps reduce your deprivation feelings or your urges to overeat later when you can eat regularly throughout the day. You can eat protein, fats, and carbs together at most meals, and that's really great. If you can try to do that more, the more you can do it. Fiber is a bonus, obviously. So if you do that, it's going to help with your blood sugar response and reduce your hunger. Getting movement in is also a way to reduce your insulin, your blood sugar. So especially after eating, and this is not like, high workout, intense cardio. This is just going for a walk, right after you eat. Also, just another tip is getting plenty of water, because cravings and hunger can really seem similar as a like a hydration or dehydration. So sometimes, people will say, I thought I was hungry and I just drank some water and I felt better. So that can kind of happen sometimes even in like the afternoon, later in the day, when we realize, oh, I haven't had my water today. So, and then, reducing stress. Stress is a whole nother topic really, but, stress impacts our blood sugar as well and our desires to eat more. And that's, some hormones that impact, like cortisol when we're dealing with stress. So the more that you can kind of reduce that will help you. And when you can eat treats mindfully, and mindfully is really just meaning that you're paying attention to what you're eating, you're sitting down with it. When you have a treat, you're enjoying it, you're giving yourself permission to have it, but you're choosing how much you're going to have. And that the opposite of that is like sitting in front of the TV with the cookies, right? Because you don't even realize you ate because you're kind of watching TV. And when you eat mindfully, like even maybe like sit at the table, put the cookies on a plate, turn off the TV, turn off your phone, choose to like have that be an experience. You will feel more like you ate. You will feel more satisfied. You will not want to eat so much of whatever you're eating. So you'll feel more content. And then when you can also eat your treats with protein, like I talked about, where possible, it's not always possible, right? But when you can think of it and it works for you, then do it. And Stephanie says, I struggle to eat throughout the day because of my job. Yeah. And yeah, and that's a reality that, you have a job as a nurse, and that's understandable that, and so there are different things, and it's not a perfect thing. If you eat a really good meal that's, like fueling up in the morning, say, and you eat more protein, and you kind of like plan for like, I'm not going to eat for quite a while, and then using quick snacks might be an option too, like protein filled snacks like protein bars, and then have a dinner where you're more like, okay, planning out how I'm going to do dinner. But yes, I get that, and that is a hard one, and I understand that that's hard, and it doesn't always work for everybody. So, but it's not going to like, it's more of what you eat, right? Than eating small meals all day. So it really is more about what you eat that's going to manage that blood sugar anyway. So thanks for sharing that though. Um, so the last little slide here on this topic of blood sugar is just to kind of give you a visual of how, how it looks. The red line is really the highs and the lows, like the larger meals that don't have protein, healthy carbs, or healthy fats, like large meals, high sugar foods, large amounts of sugar, sugary treats, and things like that create that spike that's up and down, up and down. You can kind of see the extreme. And then the green line is what it looks like to have that be stable all day through eating protein and carbs and healthy fats together, and fiber. And so you're keeping, especially having the right kind of carbs is keeping that lower. So that's kind of, just to give you a visual of what that's doing in your body. And when you eat this way, it definitely can help. And even in the holidays, you might know that like, okay, at night, I'm going to be going to a party. So it doesn't mean that you have to deprive all day. You can eat protein, healthy carbs, healthy fats during the day, and then you're going to feel better when you go to that party that night. You're not going to be ravenous and like, oh, here's my only chance to eat. Like, tell your body, hey, I'm going to feed you, and feed it the healthy things. And then you can have that treat at the party. You can indulge in some things you want to, but you're going to be more set up for success if you are balancing your blood sugar throughout the day, and then you're not arriving to the party with like a crazy sugar low, and you're really needing a lot of food to feel better. So all right, does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions before I keep going on a couple other things? And then Sandy was talking about eating nuts and fruit at work for snacks. Yeah, those are great choices. Yeah. And a lot of times, like with nuts, you don't need very much, and they keep you satisfied for a long time. So it's kind of like a different mindset. When we eat that way, we can go longer too and feel satisfied. It seems simple. Yeah, and that's all it is. It's usually like it's pretty simple, and it's what we kind of know what to do. It's how to do it. It's where we end up struggling. Um, because we can Google a lot of stuff, right? Like a lot of information, but how do I apply this to my life is where it can get tricky. So I hear you on that. Okay. So I've shared a lot with you tonight. I'm going to start wrapping up here. You have my guide with you, so you can refer to all of the information later. But you might be someone who would love even more support. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to just take a minute to share how I can best support you. And then I'll get you that free recipe book. I shared my story earlier. I also help other women heal the root causes of weight fluctuations and struggles with overeating. And together we co-create their personal roadmap to achieving permanent weight and food freedom. But you have to address the root cause, which is the dieting mentality that has created the yo-yo eating patterns and the blood sugar imbalances. Then you need a proven method, a step-by-step plan in place that fixes the root cause so that you can keep doing all the things, you can stop doing the things that don't work and just focus on the few things that do. I discovered that in order to heal my relationship with food and lose 30 pounds for the last time, I needed 5 things. The first thing I needed was to learn how to nourish my body and balance my blood sugar so I could be healthy and stay at my ideal weight. I also needed to address my mindset around food and weight loss so that I could undo the false information being perpetuated by my dieting mentality. I needed a behavior change roadmap that would help me break lifelong eating patterns, but in a way that was kind to myself. I needed to learn mindful eating tools so that I could give myself permission to enjoy food, eliminate food guilt, and stop overeating behaviors like stress eating and emotional eating. I needed a simple step-by-step approach to increasing my metabolism so weight loss and weight maintenance became easier and sustainable. So if you're interested in learning more about coaching and how I could personally support you that way, the best way that I could help you is with a complimentary call. And this breakthrough call gives us 45 minutes to help you gain confidence and see how this framework works well. I'm certainly not the only one in the weight loss industry. It's pretty big if you haven't noticed, but there's a lot of people doing it, but I'm best at working with women in their 40s and 50s on up who want to lose weight permanently using a non-dieting approach. I've transformed my own life as well as my clients' lives. So I'm putting a link in the chat that you can consider. This is a link to the call. And if you are interested in doing that, you can just click on the link and schedule a call with me now if you would like to. This is what the screen would look like on that link, on that scheduler. And it's called a breakthrough call. And once you're here, you just select your time zone and the date, and then I just call you. You give me a number that you put in and I give you a call. So it's very easy. And just a couple specifics, the call is free because it's literally my mission in life to support women to get freedom from food and weight struggles in a way that doesn't involve dieting. I have a core value in my business where I offer value first. I start off just by helping you with like this free training and with the call. I know that I can help you overcome some of the barriers that have been stopping you from achieving lasting weight loss. And I can do that in a short period of time. Second, I know that there's many of you listening that want more personalized support and accountability. So on the call, what we do is talk about your health journey, your struggles, and your goals. And then we talk about a strategy to get you where you want to go. And if you may want my help getting you there, I'll just explain to you what that could look like. And if not, that's completely okay. You leave the call with a lot of value, clarity, and confidence. And of course, we part as friends. There's only one catch if you're looking for a quick fix or a magic pill, so to speak. A way to lose weight where you don't care if it supports the health of your body and your mind, then the call is not for you. So here's the link again. You can even, I think, click on the slide if you wanted to do that. Okay, so now is the time for the fun bonus. As I promised, I'm going to put this link in the chat box. And this is again, a PDF, and it will have the 22 recipes. It's called Healthy Holiday Recipes. Okay, I'm going to turn on my camera here at the end. Hopefully that went through. Let me know if you have any trouble at all. If you have trouble opening the PDF, not a big deal. I can always email it to you. Just send me an email. You can respond to one of the email reminders that you've gotten about the training, and I'm happy to just send that to you by email. Oh, good. Lisa got it. Okay, good. So hopefully these are some fun things you can kind of look through and make for your family or bring to a dinner party and have another option. It doesn't mean you can't obviously eat the treats and your favorites, right? But sometimes it's nice to have other things that taste good and also have some of just the healthier things in them. So you have that. And this is pretty much the end here. Q&A. I don't know if you have any questions, but I am happy to stay on for a few more minutes and answer any questions you have, or if anyone has any last comments, feel free to type those in. Will you email? Yeah. You want the Sandy, do you want the recipe book? Just let me know if you want the recipe book or the guide or both. Okay. Sure, no problem. Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions? I'm so glad you guys are here. Okay, Antoinette. Great info. Good. I'm glad it was helpful. It's a very broad topic. So, but like you said, it's simple, Lisa, right? Let me know if you guys ever have questions. I have a free Facebook group where I just try to post helpful things in there. And so if you ever have questions, you can reach out, you can message me or email me. I'm always happy to help. So I really do enjoy this. I enjoy talking with women, which is why I do the free call if you're ever interested in that. And I like to hear about your journey. I like to see where I can help. So, all right, guys, Merry Christmas. Oh, I have one last thing. Okay, your last reminder of this training. These are your dieting mentality glasses. Okay, I want you to take them off and I want you to put on your blood sugar glasses. Okay, so here you go. This is what I want you to remember, me looking crazy. And this is how you're going to see things in the holidays. Okay, this is how you're going to see the world. This is how you're going to make decisions. Does this balance my blood sugar? What can I do today? I don't have to restrict and overeat. What can I do to balance my blood sugar? Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. I will talk to you soon. All right. Bye.